All right, I am here with my friend Whip, a fellow fish keeper who has driven all the way from
Chicagoland area.
Chicagoland to bring me a female red tear that is currently floating and acclimating. And she's going to be going into a small quarantine tank before I decide where to put her. It's also Whip who brought me the large red tear that you can see here. Just a beautiful fish. But since I've got Whip here, I wanted to go ahead and ask him a little bit about him. I know a lot of us know him. We see him in some of the in some of the live streams. You know, we see him popping in and out and helping out as a moderator, and he's certainly been a friend of my channel. So I wanted to find out a little bit about him and get some of the backstory of Whiplash. So, so Whip, welcome to the fish room.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. Thank you for making the trip all the way down here.
Oh, my pleasure.
6 hours?
Closer to 8.
8 hours.
Yeah.
Wow. On the way to another place here in Tennessee that
correct.
You have, which is awesome. Okay. How did you get into fish keeping?
It came about, I don't know, 6th grade, I think. You know, when we started having science class, and they'd have like birds and fish and whatever, you know, and then summer come around and they needed to do something with the animals. So they asked around, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take the fish, because it was just a little 10-gallon aquarium with like 3 guppies in it. And by the end of that 3-month summer break, I had like 600 guppies.
The way that goes, like rabbits.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So
you're on your way.
Yeah.
And has it been pretty consistent, or have you had breaks?
I've had a couple breaks. I think when we first got married, I had a tank, and then we just, you know, life got busy, and I kind of got away from it, and then I might have had 1 tank. I don't even know if you can consider 1 tank in the hobby, but maybe you can.
Oh yeah. A
Yeah,
bowl is in the hobby, I think.
Sure, yeah. I tried snakes for a while, and a couple other little different things, but iguanas. I tried iguanas, but nothing was the same. You know,
I had an iguana.
Did you?
Oh yeah.
Probably out in Cali.
Up in Cali, and it would whip you sometimes if it got annoyed, and it would give you a welt.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, he got big and chunky.
I don't even remember ours name, but yeah, she would whack me pretty good, and she bit. So I wasn't thrilled about that either.
yeah. Ours was Bentley. He didn't bite us, but he'd whip the heck out of us.
Yeah.
So you got into it as a child, like myself. I got my parents brought home a small tank,
right,
like the size of this 5-gallon over here.
Yeah.
And one thing led to the next. But I had a lot of breaks, you know, because I had jobs where I had to travel. And
especially
stuff.
early on.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And of course, in the beginning, you unfortunately kill off a lot of fish till you learn the ropes, right?
Yeah, and we're old enough before the internet, so you were basically learning from, mistakes.
Right.
Because most of the kids in the pet store didn't know what they were talking about. They were just there to, earn some money for gas and. And I didn't really we had a library, but that was about it. There was no clubs that I knew about.
I remember the little soft cover books you could buy on taking care of your guppies. Yeah, I remember those. Right now you're working on a project. You were telling me, what is the objective of the project? What are you trying to bring about in the fish room, in your fish room?
Well, I'm always looking to expand, so a lot of my 55s have gone from 55 to 75 to 90, and now 2 of them have gone to 150 highs, which is a 4-foot by 2-foot footprint. So it's the same as a 55, only deeper. And then I have one 120, which is also 4-foot by 2-foot, but it's a little bit shorter tank. So.
And what are you doing for stands and backgrounds on those tanks normally?
It's kind of a variety. I'm going to build 1 stand. I have a production one for one of the 150s. I had a buddy of mine. He was a blacksmith, so he made me 2 custom stands out of steel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's never good, because I did have a problem with my 220, where this was being crushed down onto the door.
Oh,
So
that's not good.
it was pinching the door. I couldn't open the door.
Yeah.
And I went 5 years without changing my
scary.
canister.
That's scary.
5 years without changing canisters.
That's amazing. And the fish lived.
Yeah, they've been doing fine for the most part.
That,
so.
that speaks to the theory of canisters being nitrate factories.
Right.
No, they're not.
Right.
Otherwise, you wouldn't go 5 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they weren't even that dirty. I was surprised because when I finally did get them swapped over to the new stands, I cleaned them out. They were gooey. I mean, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
they weren't as disgusting as I was anticipating. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then as far as backgrounds, 220 has just that, the film that you buy at the pet store that has that.
Yeah.
I have that, but the rest of them are painted.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts between painting or the film? What do you have a preference?
I think I like the film better just because you can take it off easy enough. I'm sure everybody's familiar with Jason from Primetime Aquatics.
Oh yeah.
I purchased his 150 high. That's one of the ones that replaced one of my 55s.
Oh nice. You're close to him?
Yeah, I'm about an hour away from him.
Oh cool.
I see him
Yeah.
at the swaps.
I wish he was closer to me. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's he's
him
a
and
salt of the earth.
Joanne?
Joanna.
Yeah.
Yep, I go riding with them on the Harleys all the time.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Yeah. Did you go Sturgis?
Not the Sturgis. No, I
That's it?
haven't been
Okay.
up there since like '88.
Isn't Sturgis going on right now? Or it was going on shortly?
First week of August, so yeah, it should be.
It just happened, yeah.
Yeah.
I just removed the vinyl, the Velamax from the 55s that I had.
Oh, okay.
I just put it right on the back of those, of the new ones.
Yeah, see, and you can
So-
swap it in. It's so much easier.
It just came right off. A little bit of water, made sure the backs of these were clean,
Yeah.
and boom, I was good. Like
Right.
it took 5 minutes literally, and I've painted too. I've used the, the acrylic, the child safe acrylic,
Right.
which is real, and with a roller.
Yep.
I've done all that too, and I like that too because that comes off easy with the blade. But the spray paint, I spray painted once on one. Forget it, that's on forever. You use the like the Crayon or some of those types of sprays.
Yeah, the Fusion.
Those are really hard to remove without a solvent of some kind,
Right.
which might damage the adhesive. Your,
Which I'd asked around about that, and I ended up using Krylon, but not the Fusion. It was a roller-on type, and maybe it'll stay. I did have an issue. My 75, I painted blue, and
dark blue on the back.
no, like a I don't know, almost a royal blue.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
that
a,
looks
it's a
good.
bro- it looked great, but it started peeling. So I have 2 spots in the back that, I can't. I have to tear the whole tank down, pull it out, peel all that off, and redo it.
Thinking of touching it up, but you probably could see the lines where you touched it up. Yeah.
Right. So I haven't messed with it. So what I'm probably going to do is just replace the whole tank with a 90.
An excuse.
Yeah,
I
right.
was looking for an excuse to get. I have a friend who just got rear-ended, and he's okay, but he had been wanting to buy a truck for a long time, and now he went out and got a truck. I go, there's easier ways to get a truck than getting rear-ended.
Yeah. Right.
They totaled his car.
Oh, no.
So it's funny how we find a way. So. All right. So you've got some a lot of projects in the air.
I do, and then I'm in the process of swapping out. Part of my idea is, like I was telling you, I want to go like with an Asian tank, not like a biotope where everything's got to be from a specific spot.
Yeah.
But as long as from that particular continent, I'm going to try doing that sort of thing, so that it'll go. The way my fish room is set up, it's 3 tanks, 1 tank, and then 3 tanks. So it'll go Asian, South American, Central American, small South American-ish.
Yeah.
I might have a few oddballs in there in the 120 high. And then I'll have North American native fish.
That'll be interesting.
I'm toying with the idea of like doing a pumpkin seed or something that we can catch right out of the lake and that might have a little color to
Get
it.
some Florida flagfish.
Right.
And I heard sunfish are beautiful.
Sunfish,
You just got to watch for some of the parasites and things. But I think if it's just exclusively local fish, I mean,
Right.
they should be okay.
Should be okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I just I was gonna do a 175. The preformed ponds.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I have one.
You drop it in.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to build like a stand, but that it would drop into, and put my arowana in there. But I don't know. That's a lot of open water, and I was afraid that the mold and everything, if it got too moist downstairs with the evaporation. So
Yeah, you'd have to have definitely have some evap type equipment.
right.
You talked to Big Rich about that.
Yeah.
You know, he's got that pool.
Yeah.
And then next to the pool, he's got other pools.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
so
right.
he's got major-
Yeah,
major
what he's got
evap.
going on is a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Well, you were just there.
Okay. I'd be concerned about an arowana jumping out of a pond. You know, you find them laying on the side
Yeah.
or jumping, and even if you had if you have it screened along the edges, maybe jumping and falling on the screen, you know, or something like that. Just 'cause
That
it-
was one of my fears. I mean, I was going to build, like, it would be about 30 inches off the ground, and then I was going to build like a solid fence all the way around 3 sides, and then put like a glass panel in the front.
Oh, that'd be nice.
But
Like a viewing area.
yeah, so you could look down on them, and then put not screen, but netting, you know, to keep like people use for koi and whatnot.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking about the mold issues and everything, and I'm like, you know, I think I'm just gonna.
It's a
And I
big
came
project.
across that 130 I was telling you about. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna put that instead. So that'll be my African tank now.
One of the things I talk about in some of the videos that I'm sure you've probably heard is to not grow to the point where it becomes work,
Correct.
because
Yeah.
then it starts to, if you start dreading maintenance, or you start falling behind just because of life's normal activities, you kind of cross a line. I've seen so
Yep.
many guys burn out.
Yep, that's. I'm almost there now. I've got those, 7 tanks. I have 2 quarantine tanks, which my wife counts, and I try not to because I don't want it to be added into my. Because they're not always fish in there.
She's actually sitting in front of us here.
she is.
Her name is Crystal, and she's being very, very nice and quiet as a church mouse.
And then I have one.
But she is opening and rolling her eyes occasionally. So
That happens more than you would. I care to admit, really. But yeah, so I have I have a total of 7, 8, 9, 11 if you count the 2 quarantine tanks, and that is to the point where I'm like, ugh, I don't know how people do it with 80 and 90 and 100. I don't know how they.
Well,
do it.
Josh, have you seen Josh's fish room? And he has a full-time job.
Yeah,
I mean, he's got 100 tanks.
it's crazy. Yeah,
Crazy. But he does it. I mean, he's automated in a lot of things, like some auto water change stuff, and but still, I mean,
I've made it as easy as I can without doing that. Whereas I have 2 pythons. I have one filling and one emptying. Like I'll empty it about halfway, and then I'll start filling it while it's still emptying. So I'll get maybe a 60 to 70% water change, and it just drains right into my sump pump. You know, it gets kicked out. So it's not like I'm hauling water in buckets or anything like that.
yeah, bucket brigade will burn you out real
Oh
quick.
man, I can't even imagine. I know some of the guys that do the big tank volume stuff. They're still bucket brigading it. And I'm like, I don't know how you do it.
I've got a electric pump that I use
Oh, that kicks it out.
that kicks it out.
Oh, yeah.
Filling it up takes forever.
Yeah.
But the pump, I mean, it's pretty quick. I can
Well,
get- I can
especially
get
for
this
something
down
like this big.
Yeah, I mean, a third water change is 100 gallons. So it's a lot. It's a heck of a lot.
Yep.
A couple of quick questions. If you could only have one tank size, what would it be?
I would go as big as I could, right? I mean, I like big fish. I tell this to people all the time. If I liked little fish, it would make my life a lot easier because then you have a lot more options. You don't have the aggression that you have with these cichlids and all that. But they just don't do anything for me. You know, I look in there and I'm like, yeah, that's cool and everything, but I don't. Yeah, I'd rather look in here. You know.
You get the interaction.
Yeah.
These guys are fearless. You'd go big.
I'd go big.
You'd go big.
I'd go as big as I
and,
could.
And if you could only choose one type of filter, what would it be?
It'd definitely be a.
It'd
be a
sump, a
canister.
canoster, or a.
I'd go
with
with
a can?
canister. I love the sump idea, and if somebody ever comes up with the one that comes out the back of the tank rather than drilling into the tank, you know, I'm a big baby when it comes to thinking about putting holes in your in your glass
Yeah,
box.
these two are drilled.
I had one. My first 210 was drilled, and I just worried about it all the time because those the uplift tubes, they just sit in there. It's not like they're screwed in or anything. They're just sitting in there.
Yeah. Well, you know what you do is they're safeguards. Are you afraid of a back siphon?
I was afraid of that. Somebody knocking one off to the side and draining the tank. I was afraid. And then I was worried about. Although I have seen your advice on poking a hole so it only goes down so far.
That's right.
But
even these outputs, see how high they are?
Yeah.
So the second the pump turns off, the air breaks the siphon.
Right.
There are those overflows. See up there that ESOP PF 800?
Yep.
That's an overflow box that goes in the back of your tank, and it feeds a sump.
And is it fairly reliable?
I haven't used it, but I've heard good reviews about it. So it's there. I was going to put it on this if I turn this into a discus tank. I was going to put it on here just to create.
Oh, this is going to be the discus.
Right.
Okay, I thought you had another one laying around.
I've got a 60-gallon acrylic back there.
Okay.
But I think this would be a better looking discus tank, the rimless
look.
But
yeah. Plus it's bigger.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. More gallons. But also now they've got a lot of tanks that have sort of like a whole chamber at the back built in, so you have to worry about leaks.
Right.
It just drains into the back of the tank, and I mean you lose a little bit of a few inches, but at any rate but yeah, I'm going to try that box someday. I don't know, maybe I will, but it's but I haven't had any problem with the drilling, with the drilled holes, and this one has a hook refill nozzle, right? Just a hook hang on.
Okay.
Refill nozzle. These the returns are drilled. They're actually attached. So they have they're actually like screwed on the back.
Screwed right in.
Yeah, but you can imagine if the pumps went out.
Oh yeah, I can see it from here.
Yeah, if the pumps went out, they have some of that flex line, But if the pumps went out and you didn't have the safeguards like one-way valves, siphon brake, I mean it would just keep draining, right?
Right, and when that tank, actually it blew a seal somewhere down in here, brand new. It was only a year old.
Oh.
And I came home from work, and the tank was about that far down.
That's scary.
And I'm like, oh no! So I had to catch all the fish out of there and donate them to the local pet store because I had nowhere to go with them.
Yeah.
And it was just a mess. And this is back when before Aqueon had bought out a company by the name of All Glass. I don't know if you remember that. All Glass was the company that made the 210 I originally bought. And they replaced it, no questions, other than the fact that now I had to get, 2 or 3 buddies together and haul the 210 out of the basement and give it back to them. The new tank came in, I had to haul the new one down again, so.
Yeah, it's great you get the refund.
Yeah.
But then all the labor.
Yeah, there's a lot of labor involved.
It's like, okay, thanks, Aquarium. They sent me a check, for each one of these tanks that failed. They
that's right.
refunded me.
I heard you say that.
But what about the 10 hours of?
Yeah, right.
I mean, I had to swap out substrate. I mean, that was like with a cup. I mean, you're just hours and hours, and then the stress on the fish, and so they don't reimburse you for pain and suffering or a hernia.
Right.
So, big tank. Canisters, and you can only keep one fish. What is it?
Oh, that would be a hard one. I mean, I've had an Oscar my whole life, most of my adult life. But I've really fallen in love with these arowana. If I could get a tank big enough for an arowana, I would definitely have an arowana.
What would you consider tank big enough for an arowana?
At least 8 foot, which I'm not going to be able to provide for the one I've got. But it's a black arowana, and supposedly they're a smaller version of the silver gets almost 4 feet long.
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, so
crazy.
This only gets to about 24 inches to, and
that's 2 feet.
Yeah, it's still a big fish, but it's if I can get even an 8 foot tank, I think it'd be all right because that's 4 times its length. And
so you think arowana would be the?
I think so. That's probably be.
Weren't they called dragonfish?
Yeah.
They really are cool fish.
Especially the ones that we can't have. The
ones,
Asian arowana.
Those are nuts.
Yeah.
The reds and pinks.
Yeah, super reds.
Unbelievable. Why can't we bring those in? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I think because they were endangered for a while, and they didn't want them, us plucking them from the wild. But now they're breeding them over there.
Oh, I've seen it.
So now it's just politics. I think you know.
I saw a facility where they had these separated pools with one arowana in each one, and each one was just stunning.
Right.
Reds and pinks, and the guy said, "Oh yeah, there's $250,000 of arowanas."
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's like, my goodness. So, all right. So we said fish. We said tanks, arowana, big tank. Of course, you'd have to have a big tank for arowana. Canister filtration.
Yep.
Okay. So what am I missing? Any preferences on lighting in your experience?
No, I mean, I've heard good things about the higher end stuff. I don't have the pockets deep enough to buy those though, so
Some of those are very expensive.
very expensive. So Higer is probably my high end. I do have the 3.0, which one? The Fluval.
Yeah.
That one's probably a little bit
That's
better
a good
quality.
one.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
I have a couple Stingrays. My biggest issue is I don't have good enough water quality coming out of the ground, into the tap.
You're off of a well?
Yeah, and I can't grow plants. It's just too high in something. The chemistry isn't right, and plants just wither away and go away. I can't seem to get them to grow.
Probably grow these kind of plants.
Yeah, yeah. That would be
Are arowanas plant destroyers?
No, but I have my big tank is nothing but the bruisers from South and Central America, and they don't let anything, not even the plastic ones. Like, I'm impressed that you get those to stay in the ground.
I find pieces.
Oh yeah,
I mean, I find chunks of the plant
Right.
broken off.
Yeah.
You just pull them off. Crazy.
When I do not water changes, but when I clean the canister, I find chunks of plastic plant in there all the time, or I did when I had them in there.
Yeah. People ask me, why don't you go real plants? I go,
Yeah,
you've
right.
never had big cichlids, have you? Yeah. What do you? What's been your think on heating? You hear so many people say 5 watts a gallon, 1 watt a gallon. What's your idea on heating?
I've always gone the old school 5, but I'm
five
an
per
older.
gallon.
Yeah.
And do you run them through controllers, or you just go straight heaters?
I have not, but knock on wood, I've never had that issue.
Yeah.
My buddy just barbecued an entire tank full though, so I know it can happen.
Well, happened to me on the 29.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
I lost my eel.
Yep.
Yeah,
And your
and my
brand new
Starry Night.
Starry Night.
I was so upset, but and I was out of town.
Yep.
And it was one of those when I
It's
came home.
always when it happens.
Yeah, my wife said, "Well, I got some bad news," and I'm like, and it was like, "Well, that had to be electrical or heat to kill everything like that."
Yeah.
And she said she fed them that evening, and then the next morning they were all gone. So it had to have been some kind of a surge.
Had to been.
Yeah. So that one's. I mean,
And then there's no way to test it because,
No.
I mean, the ammonia in there is going to be sky high by the time.
exactly. The test would also be silly.
Yeah.
And when you talking about that, are there certain meds that you keep on hand?
I keep Icax and aquarium salt. Those are my go-tos.
Icax, okay.
Really, I haven't had too many issues as far as disease go, except for ick.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I don't even use the Icax very often. I just crank the heat up.
Yeah, knock on wood.
Yeah, right. And because it's a cold water parasite,
Yeah.
and if you get it up over 86 degrees, that fast, speeds up their life cycle.
Yeah.
And
They don't hatch. I think you get to a point where it breaks up it can't do the cycle.
Right, and eventually they're just gone. So and it can happen pretty quick. And then if you just leave it like that for even a month, 3 weeks to a month, I think you're safe. Yeah. That's how I do it anyway.
Yeah.
And
Well, it works. It works.
so far, yeah, I mean, except for unless you wait until you're well into it, and then there's just there's no recovery.
And it weakens the fish.
Yeah.
So
right.
other stuff shows up now.
Yeah, you're right.
I used to have clown loaches, and the scaleless fish are almost like an early warning system on ick.
Yeah.
Because if they get one spot, nobody else will have it. Just the clown loach has one spot.
Right.
Jack up the temp,
Yep.
it never takes hold.
Right.
They were like a great early one. I used to keep them with my California cichlid tank. If you remember, I had the
Yeah.
Tres Amigos in there, and they did great with the cichlids. Do you have preferences on food?
I do. I started off with just the pet store Tetra stuff.
Like all of us.
Like everybody, yeah. And as I
Hikari and
yeah, and I still use the Hikari. I mean, I know it gets a bad name.
It's available.
But yeah. But the fish like it, and I mean that's really the most important thing, right? I mean, if the fish aren't eating it,
they have some big cichlid pellets that my fish loved. The Hikari, I forget the name of it. Gold or
BioGold.
BioGold.
Yeah.
Man, the fish go insane on that stuff. Yeah.
But then now I've as I've gotten more involved with YouTube and I start watching different channels and see what they use. I really like Hikari or Extreme, and then you turned me on to Sarah, and then now all of a sudden Northfin is making a comeback. Several channels, yourself included, has started using. So I've picked that up again.
I've got some samples from Darius. I'll give you from Northfin.
All right.
Yeah. I've got a little Sarah too. That's good stuff. Yeah, I love that stuff. Do you mix?
Yes.
Okay.
Like I have a big, like an old Extreme bin I just dumped everything in there. That's all roughly the same size.
I'm gonna tell people if you're up north with me and you want to know about what I'm doing, just go visit Whip.
Right. Yeah, that's about to say. Can we have the same thing?
The parallel life here. And do you feed frozen treats?
I do. That's Hikari. I use the bloodworms and the brine shrimp.
Okay.
I don't hatch out my own live brine, but the frozen seems to be just as good. They love it. Little girl over there that you just took in, she eats the bloodworms and the brine, and she likes some of the small sinking stuff that I think I probably got from you back when I could still do super chats.
Yeah, yeah, she'll get a little bit of all of that.
Yep. Doesn't much
do you
care
ever use
for
the
flake.
frozen krill?
No.
It's gotten so expensive. It's like a
to be
sheet
honest,
of it is like $25 for like a
krill. It can mess me up. I look like I've been in a fight with Tyson. If I touch it and then do this.
Oh, for shellfish in general?
Yeah. No, not
just krill.
Krill and bloodworms. Bloodworms, if I don't wash my hands after I'm done feeding it, whoo-wee.
So you have a reaction to it.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a reaction to piscine energetics? Because that's basically a type of shrimp or krill, isn't it? Piscine energetics.
I don't think I've ever tried it.
Yeah.
Is that a fish food?
What happened is, I got the story from the guy who owns the company. Canada put these this type of critter into the waters to help control something else, and of course that. You know what happens? Like when we took the wolves out of Yosemite or whatever, out of Yellowstone.
Everything went amok.
Something else went out of balance.
Right. Yeah.
So now they subsidize this guy to get in there and get all these little guys out there, like little shrimps.
Oh yeah.
And they're apparently super nutritious. And so he gets them out and he does a special dry out process that really holds onto the nutrients, and he makes a fish. It's called piscine energetics. Good stuff if you can get it.
I'll look into it.
It's from Canada, and but be careful touching it if you're allergic to shellfish and stuff. And
I have to remember to wash my hands. I can't.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do the experiment. Oh, no reaction that time. Oh, no.
There's a guy on YouTube that I stumbled across, and I'm kind of sorry I did. He lets things bite him.
Oh yeah.
To see how he reacts. Have you seen that guy?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking big critters that will drop like a straw into his arm.
Right.
I mean, it's like, what are you doing?
That Asian hornet thing that's this big.
Yeah, that has the big, like proboscis or whatever thing comes down. Insane.
Yep.
Share with us what's been your biggest teaching moment, your biggest learning moment in fish keeping. We've all had something, like with me, rushing a quarantine taught me a hard lesson.
Yep.
Have you had, I know, being distracted, I know.
Yeah.
You're staying on task, I know, and we all have that sometimes, right? We start answering texts or emails, and all of a sudden the tank is. But have you had one instant that stands out in your fish keeping career as that you had the biggest learning, hard knock lesson in fish keeping?
I guess the one thing I've learned 3 times is it's again distraction, but it was, I don't know if you do this or not. I have to turn off my filtration to do the water change because I don't want, because I use a lot of hang on the backs. I usually use a combination of 3 different things. I usually have the sump, a sponge, not a sump, I'm sorry, a canister, a sponge, and then the hang on the backs. So they all work together. Yeah, and it's redundancy, plus it's, if one dies, I'm not immediately thrown into, oh boy, got to go get that replaced, and it's 9 o'clock at night on a Saturday and there's nothing open. And so now if one goes down, I'm still okay. The downside of that is when you turn it off, if you forget to turn it back on, you have a major die-off. And that's happened 3 times. And all 3 times I said, this will never happen again, until it happened again. And like I was telling somebody, I think I said it on my stream once, it happened in my community tank where I lost all the Ochart that I had, the blue Ochart, a fire eel. I had a huge
fire eel. Wow.
Yeah, that was a rough go. I had like an 8-inch rainbow shark that biggest one I've ever grown out.
That's a huge rainbow shark.
It might have been 7 inches, but it was big. Yeah, so I said that will never happen again. And my plan was I'm going to get these sponge filters, even though I hate sponge filters. They're ugly and everything, so I was like, but I'm going to put one in there and plug it in independently, because if they run dry, there's no motor to burn up.
Right.
So that was my plan. And then, unfortunately, it happened again on my arowana tank. I had a 27-inch arowana that I had had for 3 or 4 years.
Oh, geez.
And on New Year's Eve, New Year's Eve day, I had done a water change, knowing I was going out that night. So I didn't catch it right away, and I came down the next day, and she was vertical, and I'm like, oh no.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a rough one.
So do you have any systems in place now that?
Now I do, yeah. And I followed through with the sponge, but see what keeps happening, like for the arowana, unfortunately with that particular tank, it was a solo. Like I have 3 on this wall, 3 on this wall, and then her tank was in between 2 closet doors, and there was only 2 plugs, so I couldn't have that many individual things plugged in. Mm-hmm. So everything was plugged into the strip, and I just do a toggle switch off.
Yeah.
And of course, I hear dinner. Oh, now I'm off like a shot.
Yeah.
Then you forget what you were doing, and so that's happened. And then I got my plugs mixed up at some point with the last one, where I killed red Texas. That was probably about that big. Just a beautiful,
Texas.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful fish.
Or it had the big hump and everything on him, and So when I turned it all off, I didn't really worry about it that much, because I thought, oh well, at least the bubbler is still going. I got surface tension getting broke up. Nope, it wasn't. It was everything was off, and he was sideways. He was still breathing a little bit, but I couldn't bring him back. So
I'm wondering if there's some kind of maybe setting a phone alarm, like an hour from when you start your water change.
Yeah.
I mean, something. There's got to be, because I can relate to it. I mean, for me, it happens on other tasks. Like my wife will say, "Can you turn off the sprinklers in 45 minutes?"
Yeah.
And then I'm about to go to bed at 10. I go, "Oh, the sprinklers."
Right. And you have a pool in your bed.
I have some real saturated grass.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's horrible. And I'm just wondering. I mean, you always got to, like, okay, what can I do to not have this happen again? And short of setting some kind of a personal alarm, but I used to do the same thing. I used to have the one strip, one button, and everything would go off. It got to the point where, like in the winter, I ended up with the heaters on a separate connection, and then I do the water change to the top of the heater. I don't expose the heaters.
Right.
Because that way I just leave them plugged in. I also leave my canisters plugged in during water changes. And they'll spew and spit and stuff. I just let them go.
Yep.
I don't risk turning them off. Because somebody was about to start this journey that you and I have been on for a long time. What would you recommend? What would you tell them if you could give them one little bit of advice in starting in fish keeping? What would it be?
Have patience. Patience is your number one. I mean, you can't have enough patience. You can't rush the process of getting your tank cycled. You can't rush the quarantine. You know, you can't wish it. You know, it's not, you can wish all day long. It's still not going to make anything better. Just do it right the first time. And also, you know, get what you want now, rather than, okay, I'm going to get this Oscar. It's going to live in a 10-gallon until I can afford the big tank. That never works out. I mean, almost never.
Yeah.
So I
Ends
mean,
up at the fish store.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just get the setup that you need. Do the research first. Get what you need. I would pick out your fish first, so you know what you need as a setup. You know, do I need an 8-foot tank? Do I need a 29 do? So often you hear people, I've got a 29-gallon tank. What can I put in it? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know what kind of fish you like. I mean, are you a guppy guy, or are you a cichlid guy? I don't know. So,
It's funny, these general questions you get sometimes.
Yeah.
I get that sometimes.
I know you get it all the time.
Yeah.
So,
My fish are dying. Can you help me?
yeah. I need a lot more information than that.
And sometimes I'll even describe it, and I'll go without seeing them in
Right.
person and without knowing everything that happened before.
Yep.
Because how many times do we get, oh, my test results are perfect.
All the
I'll go,
time.
yeah, they're perfect now because you plugged in your filter and you started you conditioned the tank, but they weren't
Right.
perfect when they started dying.
Yeah.
So
Or, they're not being completely honest with you because they don't want to admit that they don't test their water. Then there's all kinds of reasons why
Yeah.
you get that. Oh no, my water's perfect. Well, if it was perfect, you wouldn't be having an issue. So
something's wrong.
yeah, something's definitely
wrong.
not.
Yeah. Well, we all make mistakes. Patience, I think what you're saying is key,
Yep.
crucial. Maybe the most crucial thing in the hobby. Patience.
That's what I would say.
Yeah. And then followed probably by knowledge, research.
Do your research
do your
before you
research
get.
and don't get over anxious.
Yep.
And then you start getting into the fine points, like the right filtration, the right food, the right fish combinations, the right water parameters. You start to move into the intermediate to advanced fish keeper
Right.
stage. At the very beginning, patience.
Right.
Above
Because
all.
you don't know what kind of heater or filtration or food you need until you figure out what fish you need.
Yeah.
So that's why I tell people all the time, you figure out what you want as a fish. Get a game plan together with what you want to keep. If you want to keep tetras, you could get away with a sponge filter. If you want to keep a South American, you probably want something bigger because they are poop factories, and
I've got to vacuum that tank after you leave. This one here, I rake occasionally just to turn it so you get a little whiter.
Yep.
But and to also fill in some of the pit. See the pit they made back there?
Yep.
All right. Anything you want to add?
No, I think we covered it, right?
Good. I love the T-shirt.
Yeah. How you like my
Yeah,
T-shirt?
go to Teespring, pick up this T-shirt and coffee mugs and everything else. And if you like the channel, be sure to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell, and you can spend some time with Whip and I on Saturday at the Cichlids and Coffee live stream. Thanks for all the help, buddy.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. All right, that's a wrap.